because we don't know these people. So we are really dependent on you as pastors and churches to know who it is that you're recommending. And so I can't, get to know their faith, get to know their practice. You take the initiative to read their constitutions and so that what we don't want is an embarrassing situation where you met somebody twice and you write a letter of recommendation, but you've never been to their church and you really don't know anything about them. And the next thing you know, we're screening them and they're wanting to be a full member, but we find out they're not in substantial agreement in some areas. And then now what? What do we do? I mean, we're going to kick that back to you, but it puts us in a bad place. So I can't stress, please know those who you are recommending. And it would be helpful, this is not mandated, of course, but it would be helpful if in your letters, you sort of indicated how long you've known that individual or in what capacity. Sometimes some of your letters were like, I recommend John Smith. Okay, that's a letter of recommendation. It meets the minimum requirements. But how long have you known John Smith and Podunkie Baptist Church? Has it been, 6 weeks, 6 years, 60 years? It'd be nice to know those things because it would help us on how much more careful. And I don't want to say we're not careful. We're trying to be as careful as we can, but I think you get the idea there. And then lastly, I just want to just thank you for your patience with us. I think you saw in the end, there's even been adjustments all the way up to this. I can't tell you how many different committee reports I sent to Chris over the last month. Yeah, she's going like this. Every time there'd be another revision, another addition or subtraction or alteration, or somebody's going from full to associate or anyway. So it was crazy. And that's why I share with you the things that I've just shared with you. I think that's it. And I found out I was doing this about 5 minutes ago. So I hope I've covered it all. Any questions? Good. I don't want any. Do I?
Where no oxen are, the manger is clean. But much increase comes by the strength of the ox.
There you go. Okay. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, there's a plug for those of you who are thinking about being on a standing committee at some point. Missions committee, you work all day, 8 to 8 or whatever it was, but 3 weeks of vacation. Might be several pastors who would jump at that. I think we have the most people listed for the membership for the standing committee for votes. So there you have it. That could be why. Missions committee's next, Matt Foreman.
Well, brothers, I've had the honor of serving as the chairman of the missions committee for the last couple of years. And just to remind you, this is the heartbeat of our network of churches. We are Baptist churches. We believe in the independence, the authority, the sufficiency of the local church. But we believe Baptist churches work well together for the cause of missions. And that's what keeps our focus. Without that focus, we can really easily turn in and turn against one another. But we are working together towards a common goal for the spread of the gospel to all the nations. And that kind of helps us prioritize what we are about as a network. And even as we talk about sending missionaries, we need to be reminded that it's our churches that are sending missionaries. It's the churches that are really the overseeing of the missionaries. And as a network, we're sponsoring, we're helping, we're supporting, we're endorsing. The missions committee really just exists to provide counsel and help to the local churches and to the missionaries that we are looking to see continue gospel work. Our report is on page 50. You'll notice there that our committee met several times during the year. We also have 2 scheduled all calls with RBNet endorsed workers throughout the year. We haven't done a good job with this, but what we try to do with those all calls is even record them, and then we'll hope to separate out the videos that are going to be reporting from each of those missionaries so that throughout the year you can get updates, video updates for the missionaries. This last year, our brother Jorge Molina, who was the pastor, national pastor in Carlos Paz, Argentina, fell asleep in Jesus, passed into glory in January 22. His gain is our loss. But we are thankful for his years of labor there. And as we thought that church was going to be struggling, God immediately raised up the opportunity for Marcelo Brando to go to that church. Marcelo Brando was the first graduate of the William Carey Seminary in Argentina, where our brother Sam Masters labors. And Marcelo had been planting a church in the north of Argentina, successfully planted a church, but a very, very difficult area. His family ended up enduring some persecution there, some ethnic persecution there. And because of that, they needed to move back to the south. And just at that time, he'd begun talking with Jorge about helping in the church in Carlos Paz, and then God took Jorge home. And so Marcelo has stepped into that work and has also been named the coordinator for the new Baptist Association in Argentina. And so our sister church, Cornerstone Church in Mesa, has presented him to be an ongoing missionary for the network. And that application has come in and has been sent to you. And then we also this last year received an application from Jonathan Black, who is an Air Force chaplain, sponsored by Emmanuel Baptist in Coconut Creek. And the report that we wrote up back in July, we hadn't actually had a chance to interview him. That interview did happen, and the missions committee is fully recommending Jonathan to you. Mark has already mentioned the meeting several of us had with Heart Cry Missionary Society. The committee continues to work on our recommended initiatives for missions. Last year we had a face-to-face meeting, and as a committee came up with a list of recommended initiatives, priorities for the churches of our network that we presented last year. One of those we will talk about later on today. Let me just mention a couple other things. Earlier, the finance report kind of presented the budget and where we are. That budget only represents, especially for the missionaries, only represents the missionaries that are being serviced by the network, but it's only part of the missionaries from the network, meaning we have endorsed missionaries who are being serviced either by their local church or by another organization. And when you look at the breadth of that work, there's a lot of work going on. And we've been able to say for the last year or two that our missionaries have been fully supported. And that's a real blessing. I also noticed, some of you know that Baruch Maaz's numbers on that list are really, really high, but that's part of that is because he's anticipating losing a significant part of his support next year. So that's going to give us a little bit of a buffer for raising his support. So if anyone's confused about that number. Just want to remind you, tomorrow afternoon and then Thursday morning is where we have scheduled to have reports from our missionaries. That's really I think the most exciting part of the week in terms of hearing the work that God is doing. So I encourage you to really prioritize that time. It's really easy, Wednesday afternoon, you think you're waking up from your nap, you're a little groggy, but I encourage you to be here at 4:00 for those reports. And then Thursday morning, I think it's really important for us, for our missionaries who are coming in. They need our support. We are the ones holding their arms in the battle. And so our being here for their reports is, I think, a huge part of their encouragement. I should mention this is the 6th year that we've existed as a network. And the missions committee, because of some of the ongoing work we do, we have 6-year terms or two 3-year terms. So this is the first year we're losing one of our founding members, Jim Adams. So Jim is rotating off the committee, but he's been a crucial part of our work for a number of years. And then also Mike Poirier has been an advisory member, and because of some family and ministry things that he's involved in, is not able to be reapplied. But we're thankful for both of their work. It's a delight serving on the missions committee because we get to hear about the work God is doing, amazing things God is doing in His grace around the world. Thank you for your support. Any questions? All right, thanks.
Nice outfit, man. All right, next is the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting. Tim Feathers. Page 51 is the report. Page 52 is the budget. And we're going to have more time to discuss the budget and vote on that later on. But Tim.
Yeah, you'll see our report on page 51. Like Marty, I'm a new committee chair. Unlike Marty, I have the current chair still on the committee as a member. So we've retained all of Pete's institutional knowledge and experience there, which has been very helpful for me as a new committee chair to have him to lean on for that. As well in the committee, we have Stephen Thomas, our treasurer, as a committee member. Pete Van Dorn, of course. Steve Watson and Doug Totter are all committee members that served with us this year. We lost a committee member mid-year when their church disbanded and was absorbed by another church that's not part of the network. Members of our committees are required to be an current or former officer in a full member church. So we ran short for a while. And then we have Tim Hoke as an advisory member. We were all kept very busy. Most of what we did, you've already heard about through the coordinator's report, but those things were requiring behind the scenes action by the Personnel and Finance Committee throughout the year. So we met 9 times last year, almost once a month. You can see the items listed there. We began the year with an assignment from last year's GA for an amendment to deal with undesignated contributions, which we did, presented to the churches, and the churches approved that, and that amendment went into effect. We reviewed the personnel matter regarding our coordinator, Mark Chansky. One of the things that we are required to do by policy is meet with all the employees once a year as just a meeting with them as part of our supervision of them and to maintain their welfare as our employee. We did that. We were involved in the selection of our new web administrator, Derek Archer. We were involved in the selection of our new bookkeeping service to lighten Chris's load. We were involved in the process of screening and evaluating and approving our new check writer, Judy Linger. A couple of other things that were going on was Pete and Steve, as some sub work of our committee, were reviewing the policies of some of the commercial and corporate entities we do business with, looking for those whose ideology might be hostile to the mission of the network, not wanting to be too dependent upon them, where if they decide to try to take action that would be contrary to our mission, we didn't want it to be able to disrupt our operations. So it was a first step in being aware of who we may and may not want to do business with out there, and begin the process of laying plans to try to be doing business with entities that are not going to be hostile to the mission of the network. So that's just a work in progress. This was the first step. We also reviewed our banking practices. We're going to be proposing a policy amendment later today related to that. We did have a disruption in our ability to get funds to one of our missionaries in India as a result of banking practices on that end. It took us a while to devise a workaround. We spent a little time investigating what are some other options. So again, if we have, and I believe the case here was just that, we have a nation that is hostile to the mission of the network and was disrupting the funding to that missionary. So we had to find a workaround to get it there. So trying to stay on top of those things so we can minimize those, because I believe that missionary went several months without their support before we could get that one fixed. And we want to be much more responsive to those situations in the future. We replaced the computer for Chris. We activated ACH payment capability at the request of a member church. So again, just a process thing that a member church requested, and we were able to get that taken care of. And then worked on proposals that you'll see coming up as business items later in our business meeting, and then prepared our budget, which I will go into when we present the budget. So that was our activity for the year. We were a busy bunch. So any questions on any of that? Yes, Steve.
Hey, first, Tim, I just want to say 9 meetings. Thank you. Thank you for all the time that you and the team put together on that. And I know sometimes finances can be kind of a thankless task. So thank you for serving us in that way. I realize that this might require a longer conversation sometime, but I just wanted to get your perspective as the network grows. Do you think that one committee can adequately handle personnel and finance? Or do you think we're coming to a time where maybe that would better be divided?
Good question. Something I hadn't thought about yet. I think the key there will be, we will probably get to a point if we continue to add staff that may become necessary. Right now, I think we're doing okay. And just so you know, a couple of the main changes we made this year that relates to this distinction is that with our web administrator, Derek, we're contracting with his company, and with our bookkeeping, we're contracting with an established company. So those aren't our employees. So we don't have the same relationship with them, which requires less oversight and interaction from our committee. But definitely, as the network grows, if we end up adding more employees, and as the network grows, our finances become more complex, I could see we could come to a point where that's going to be something we're going to want to take a look at. Any other questions? All right.
All right, we've heard all the reports now, and remember the budget, we're going to talk about later and vote on the budget, so this is separate from that, but we need to vote to receive all the reports. Can someone give a motion for that? Doug Van Dorn, second. Tim Elzinga. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. All right, next then we're going to introduce the applying churches and individuals. Again, you should have already given your presentation to the sound team if you have PowerPoints or anything like that to share. There's only 3 minutes per church. I know that's short, but you've had their paperwork for a while to read. Aaron, yes.
I have a question. I think when we introduced new member churches this morning, there's a church from Plymouth, Indiana, for whom they're not on any of the lists, I don't think, and I don't think we have an application for them. I might be wrong about them being a new member church.
They will be in a church that is interested.
So not joining.
Brandon put himself in appropriate category.
Okay.
How eager he is.
Wow, yes, very eager. All right, good question. Since Aaron just spoke, let me go ahead and quote Aaron. Aaron said earlier, God is never late nor early. He is always on time, which I think may have been a quote of Gandalf, but it repurposed. Always on his time. Okay, all right. So as we think about that, God is never late nor early, always on time. 3 minutes per presentation. I'm going to let you know who's next. Try to be on time. You don't have to always be perfectly on time. You could be early. That's okay. God's never early. You can be. All right, but you have 3 minutes, and I'm going to call. We're actually going in the same order as 54. So if you page 54, if you see that you're next up, please go ahead and make your way up here. But first up is Christ Bible Church of Kingsport, Tennessee. And then after that will be Cornerstone Bible Church of Ridgecrest. So Christ Bible Church. There may be some churches that aren't here we have presentations for. We'll just sort that out at the time. And then Cornerstone, if you'll go ahead and make your way maybe up to a seat in the front and be ready to come next.
Greetings, brothers and sisters from East Tennessee. It certainly is a joy to be with you and a joy to present our church for your consideration. My name is Damon Joseph. I'm a pastor of Christ Bible Church in Kingsport, Tennessee. I was not raised in a Christian home. Just a little bit about myself, but converted later in life. I spiritually grew up in the independent fundamental Baptist movement, and in God's providence, my soteriology reformed while I was in seminary, which put me in quite a fun predicament, seeing fundamentalism was all that I knew. A couple years later, my family landed in an IFB church where the pastor too was reforming. The church affirmed my call, character, giftings. I was ordained and became the assistant pastor. About a year after that, after prayer and counsel, that church gave us the blessing to start what is now Christ Bible Church. That was 7 years ago this November. We began with only 2 couples in a community center, and the Lord's been gracious to bring about 35 families in the last 7 years. We did not begin fully reformed, but committed to the doctrines of grace and continual reform according to God's word. As we grew theologically, about 2 years in, we adopted the 1689 and identified distinctly as a Reformed Baptist church. This year, we had the blessing of adding one other elder, Robert Pruitt, which is one of the 3 faithful men that are here with me today. We're committed to the regulative principle of worship, expository preaching, discipling of the body, and reaching East Tennessee with the gospel. We're engaged in various local ministries, evangelism, abortion clinic ministry, Bible studies with teens in the community. We've supported mission work, local and abroad from the beginning, and are looking for more. That's one of the reasons we're here. And one thing we're doing right now, too, is not only to try to build relationships with churches abroad, but also locally. So we're participating in a local conference in East Tennessee in October that is primarily being put on by 6 different churches, all in agreement on the doctrines of grace. And we hope to have 20. It looks like we're going to have about 120 people there now, 20 of those being pastors. So we're seeing the doctrines of grace really grow in Baptist churches and Southern Baptist churches in our area, and trying to get together and fellowship so that we can reach East Tennessee and the Tri-Cities area there for the glory of God as well as the nations. If there's any questions, I'd love to talk to you afterwards about what God's doing in our lives, and look forward to what God's going to do here through RBNet. Thank you so much for considering us.
Less than 3 minutes, he got my vote. All right. Cornerstone Bible Church of Ridgecrest, and then after them is Cornerstone Reformed Baptist Church of Terrell, Texas. If Terrell, Texas makes their way up. Thanks.
I brought my timer. So, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to represent Cornerstone Church. It's quite a nice church and full of the grace of God. And we're a small, relatively small church in Ridgecrest, California. It's in the Mojave Desert. To give you some sort of geographical idea of where we're at, we're about 30,000 people. We're 160 miles north of Los Angeles, which is the 2nd largest county in the continental United States. We're 75 miles south of Mount Whitney, which is the highest point in the continental United States. And we're 70 miles west of Death Valley, which is the lowest place in the continental United States and the hottest. So we are in the Mojave Desert. I'm appreciating all the green that exists around me, and we don't see much of that. We get different shades of browns and grays. But Cornerstone Bible Church was constituted in 2004. It's in Ridgecrest is a military town. There's China Lake Naval Weapons Center there, and so basically the community there is in flux. But there are a lot of people that work on the base. That's the main employer there. So we have a lot of engineers that work on the base that attend Cornerstone Church. Lynn Whitcomb is the lead pastor and elder there, and I believe he has some roots with Riverside Baptist Reformed Church, which is the sponsor for us and recommended us to come into the network. We have 4 deacons, at our church. We did just lose 3. So because of the nature of the community that we're in, there is a lot of movement. And plus, you add into that the California, geographic or the political environment that's in California. People are kind of anxious to leave California, but so we do have a flux. But we are, and we have several small groups. We definitely focus on outreach to the community. We've gone through different small Bible studies, and currently finishing up our study on Sundays in the Book of Romans. So anyway, as far as my presence there is really, I'm fairly new at that church, and I'm hoping that God will open some doors there. I'm being considered for an eldership there, so prayerfully considering that at this point. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
All right, next up is Cornerstone Reformed Baptist Church of Terrell, Texas, and Lumberton, New Jersey's on deck if you'll make your way up.
Good morning, beloved. I'm Nick Esch, Cornerstone Reformed in Terrell, Texas. So Terrell is not as rural as here, but I would still say it's rural. Cornerstone was planted in 1981, July 1981. The founding pastor led me to the Lord in April of 2008. And under his ministry, began growing, ended up at Criswell Bible College, and then before long, ended up as associate pastor under him after some years. And then just through the exposition of the word, the church began being reformed slowly but surely. As we just grew to love the word of God, we grew to love the doctrines of grace, which tends to happen. And then from there, I was voted in as senior pastor in June of 2015. And then the church grew under my ministry from 130 to 30. And so good church growth practice. Yeah. And so that happened for a while, and things were really bad for the first 2 years. And then under God's grace and providence, it got better and better over the last few years. And then as we began to grow and grow more and more in Reformed Baptist convictions, 2020 happened, and we all know what joys that was. But in the process of that, we began talking with a small Acts 29 church, Mission Church. Jacob Simmons, my associate pastor, was a pastor there. And in August of 2021, those two churches came together, and we were Cornerstone Baptist Church. They were Mission Church. They were Acts 29. We were Southern Baptist. We came together. We left the Southern Baptist Convention. They left Acts 29. And we came together and formed Cornerstone Reformed Baptist Church August of last year. And we began looking for a home. And in God's providence, we found the Reformed Baptist Network and thought, these are our brothers. We always say we are joyfully reformed. Like, we're reformed and we're not mad about it. And so when I saw Mark, I said, this is my brother. And so we come fully submitting to the 689 and loving it. And we come asking you to consider us for membership. 2 minutes. 19.
Let's let that too.
Let's clap hands
All right. Yeah, 2 minutes, 19 seconds. Well done. Well done. All right. On deck is Faith Bible Church from Ohio, and Covenant Baptist Church of Lumberton, New Jersey. It's going to give theirs. All right. You're up.
I'm John Ruther from Covenant Baptist Church in Lumberton, New Jersey, just a little bit east of Philadelphia. I'm a converted Roman Catholic. I was converted in my first year of college. And after that, I went to Northeastern Bible College, which was in Essex Fells, New Jersey, which is where the original Trinity Baptist Church was, and where I first came into contact with Pastor Albert Martin. I then went on to Biblical Theological Seminary, graduated in 1984. I've been at our church the pastor of our church for 37 years. I'm the first pastor, although I did not start the church. Greg Nichols was involved in starting our church, and he remembers those days in South Jersey, I'm sure. I've been the sole elder for 25 of those years, having had two fellow elders at different times. Presently, and for the last number of years, I have an accountability relationship with the pastors of the Grace Community Baptist Church in North Providence, Rhode Island, Pastor Rob Ventura and Jack Buckley. And they've been very faithful to shepherd my soul and hold me accountable in my personal life and ministerial work. Our church presently has 3 deacons. We have 40 members, 40 adult members. It's a diverse congregation in color and ethnicity, and we're grateful to have Pastor Mark Jansky with us just a month ago. And so he, I think, enjoyed a time with a wonderful group of people that we have. I don't mean to draw attention to myself, but just so that you can know me a little better. Our church has been involved in a number of church planting efforts over the years. I myself was heavily involved in street preaching work with some of the prominent street preachers in our country for a few years. And unfortunately, our relationship was severed over the issue of theonomy. Not being a theonomist, and most of them are. I've had the privilege of teaching a course on the Holy Spirit with Reformed Baptist Seminary for quite a few years, and more recently with Covenant Baptist Theological Seminary International in South America. And I've also had the privilege twice of traveling to Nepal with RBS/Heartcry and working there, a place I really love on this earth. I also had the privilege of serving in China for 8 years consecutively, annually, a door which now has been closed for me, as it has for others. I'm thankful to begin our new phase of our church's history with RBNet. The Lord has given me good health at this stage in my life. I still have a lot of energy. I've never been easily discouraged, although I have had times of discouragement, but they have always been short-lived. And so I pray that the Lord will use me in the future and that I might be able to share with you in all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Faith Bible Church is up, and then First Baptist Church is on deck. We'll talk about Faithful and True Baptist Church. They're applying for associate membership. They'll come later. So it's, again, Faith Bible Church, and then First Baptist on deck.
Good afternoon or good morning. I'm Paul Houston, pastor of Faith Bible Church. Faith Bible Church began about 20 years ago in 2001 when several of us split off of a denomination, a church and a denomination that had made friends with Unchurched Harry. I don't know how many of you remember the Unchurched Harry model. But that was the beginning of the seeker-sensitive movement, and we were committed to starting a church that preached the major themes of the Bible. We didn't know it, but we ended up learning about Calvinism. 5 years after we'd been at church, someone came in and visited us and told us that we were Reformed Baptists. Never heard the term before. A little over 10 years, I was recognized as an elder, and a year later became the pastor at Faith Bible Church. Faith Bible Church is located east of Columbus, about 10 miles, in an area of huge high-tech investment. Facebook, Google, we got these buildings, massive buildings going up. Intel just broke ground. The president came to start a $20 billion manufacturing facility, looking to maybe put in $100 billion. This is within like 2 miles of our little church. So there's a lot happening in our area. And with that comes challenges for a small church. How do we connect with all these people that are moving in? House prices are through the roof, just incredibly high prices. We are committed to preaching the gospel. We're committed to expository preaching through books of the Bible. I love preaching through books of the Bible. It makes it so much easier. You know what your topic's going to be. There's the occasional topical sermon, but we are committed to expository preaching. We have ongoing Bible studies, great women's book group, Sunday school, men's breakfast. Our desire is to remain faithful to Christ in a culture that's increasingly dull and hardened to the things of God. And that's who we are. And we're so thankful, and I'm thankful to be here representing Faith Bible Church, and blessed to be here, and thankful for being considered for membership.
All right, up now is First Baptist Church, and on deck is Providence Reformed Baptist Church.
Greetings from First Baptist Church, Puxico, and her elders. I must say that this is a very refreshing thing for us. It was a glorious discovery to find Reformed Baptist Network, a confessional network that truly loves Christ, and as has been mentioned already by a brother, is a warm Calvinism. That's right. And that's what we desire to be a part of. Our church was constituted in 1880. A few members came together and they sought their first pastor several months after. They practiced what the three reformers would say marks a true church, which is gospel preaching, the proper administration of the ordinances, and then church discipline. But over time, they broke from that. And so about 15 years ago, the revitalization of First Baptist Puxico really began under the pastor who preceded me. And he preached expository sermons, and God led that church to love the Bible. And from that, having been called there alongside Pastor Buddy 10 years ago, we carried on that tradition. And God having saved me, I was a secularist. I grew up in an atheistic home, and saved me at 23 kindly. I was raised up and sent out from a mega church, Southern Baptist mega church. All I ever knew was Southern Baptist ideology and polity. And then God reformed me and the church as I would week in, week out study to preach verse by verse, book by book. And then to my joy, we discovered the 1689 confession and the regulative principle and those sort of things. And God began to really reform us over that period of time. Since that time, as a church, He has also given us a platform to send out pastors. In the past 10 years, we've sent out approximately 10 pastors. And we have an institute today that's training 7 pastors. In our institute, we give them a 2-year time frame where they learn Greek and systematic theology and my new favorite class, Puritans and the Pastorate. And so they have to learn all those things in order to be able to go and be sent out. And our hope is to see a Reformed 1689 church in every county of Southeast Missouri. I would ask that you'd pray for us to that end. But we are excited about the possibility of joining the network, and we would welcome and joyfully love to lock arms with you all. May God bless Reformed Baptist Network. Amen.
All right, up now is Providence Reformed Baptist Church, Joshua, Texas. On deck, Redeeming Grace Church.
I'm Patrick Joyner. I'm one of the 3 elders at Providence Reformed Baptist Church. Preston Hoffman is here with me. I've enjoyed fellowship and your prayers, many of you, as Harpka's first military chaplain. I retired from the Navy in 2018, and the Lord has designed circumstances such that we would plant a church. We planted last year. We took your GA and Conrad and Bayway at his word, and the Lord has blessed the work that we've done there. So we meet at a YMCA, as you might notice there. And so we've got about 16 families right now. We've got a lot of children. We're using the catechism for that. We are invested in one-on-one discipleship. We also do a Bible study at the base there. And so that's what we've got going on. We're a year old. We've got